Assalamualaikum. Thank you all for come here. Seperti mana yang anda semua tahu, today the PM and the Cabinet resign, letak jawatan. Apa Cabinet? Orang Melayu kata Cabinet. Jadi mulai sekarang kita semua tak ada kerja. Apa dia? Oh, ya. Kecuali the PM. Dia dapat kerja baru. Kalau dulu dia PM, sekarang dia caretaker PM. Tapi for me, menteri yang biasa, no job, tak ada kerja. Jadi, if anything happen, don't ask me. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. Apa dia? What am I going to do now that I resign? Oh, you don't know. I am going to terus berkhidmat untuk Malaysia. I want to make sure that Malaysia is number one. That is why I download the Pop Chat Click. Dengan Pop Chat Click, we must make sure Malaysia is number one. We must beat Thailand and Taiwan. Okay, don't disturb me. I got very many things to do. Okay, Pop Chat, Pop Chat. Buka mulut tu. Anda semua boleh balik. Jangan kacau, saya tengah sibuk. Come on, Malaysia! Still there? Okay. Hey, it's Harith Iskandar, 60-second response. I got a direct message on Facebook from a Joe Harith who asked, Harith, you anti-Melayu ke? Nak dapat sokong non-bumi sebab family you semua tak ada Malays. Lucky your late father Melayu bracket soldier. Kalau dia ada, sedih tengok you sekarang. Okay, I tried to reply to Joe Harith directly on Facebook, but I think he blocked me. I could not do that, so I'm putting it out there. My late father, Colonel Musa bin Muhammad, waktu dia di hutan during the communist insurgency in the 60s and 70s, alongside all the other soldiers daripada berbagai bangsa of the 6th Regiment Rangers, tak pernah fikir kita sedang bertugas untuk mempertahankan bumi ataupun non-bumi. Diorang semua fikir kita bertugas untuk mempertahankan rakyat Malaysia. So I don't think my late father would be sedih to see what I'm doing now. Tapi mungkin dia sedih kalau dia tahu ada juga orang Malaysia zaman ini yang ada mentality yang kata kita hanya boleh sokong bumi atau hanya boleh sokong non-bumi. I'm Harith Iskandar, 60-second response, saya sokong Malaysia. Hi, Harith Iskandar with a 60-second response to this news item.
Kementerian Kesihatan menjelaskan mana-mana individu yang terbukti diberikan suntikan vaksin picagari kosong akan menerima suntikan dos baru.
Menterinya Datuk Seri Dr. Adham Baba berkata pihaknya akan memanggil individu berkenaan untuk menerima suntikan semula.
Prove that you were given an empty syringe and the ministry will contact you to give you a proper dose? I have two questions. One, how do I prove I received an empty syringe? And two, how do I prove I received an empty syringe? There's a sign outside the door that clearly says no video camera allowed, or you can take an antibody test to find out. So now the onus is on me to prove that you didn't give me the vaccination that you said you would. But here is what really concerns me. The reaction of, oh, you had an empty syringe, tak apa, prove it, we'll give you another jab. This isn't like going to the mechanic. Oh, we didn't change your engine oil, tak apa, prove it, we'll change your engine oil. It should be, we didn't actually give you the vaccine which we promised we were going to give you to potentially save your life. And if you hadn't videotaped it, we would never have known. I am so sorry. Why didn't they react that way? You know what's worse? Amongst the millions, and I mean millions of vaccinations already given out, these few incidents have spoiled it for the thousands of good, honest Malaysians who've been working so hard to make this vaccination program a success. This is Harith Iskandar with a slightly longer response than 60 seconds. Get vaccinated. Assalamualaikum. Thank you all for come here. I will answer all your questions. Apa dia? Kat depan tu? My comment when it was reported in the morning that Timbalan Menteri Ahmad Amzad said kerajaan tak dapat memenuhi permintaan orang ramai merakam gambar atau video ketika disuntik. Cannot. You cannot take the video because this will mengganggu the kelancaran of the vaccination process. You tengah dapat the vaccine, you take out your camera and then the nurse or the doctor see the camera want to ansang ayo. Cannot, you will mengganggu. Cannot, tak boleh, cannot. Bagaimana In the afternoon pula, petang, YB Khairi Jamaluddin said you can take the video in the vaccination process. Can. Apa salahnya? Boleh. Bagus. Memang bagus. Boleh. Because you nak ingatkan. You want to remember. You want to posting IG story. This one is my posterity. I remember. Boleh. Apa salahnya? Kenapa confused? Apa yang confused? Kenapa timbalan menteri pagi cakap sesuatu, menteri petang cakap lain? This is not confusing. The reason the timbalan menteri said one thing in the morning and the menteri said another thing in the afternoon, if you don't want to take a video selfie, you go vaccine in the morning. If you want to take the video selfie, you vaccine in the afternoon. Apa yang confused? Tak boleh. Senang je, senang. Hi, Harith Iskander with a 60-second response. Hamelin TV from IG asked, Mr. Harith Iskander, why you can't run for Prime Minister? First of all, thank you for the kind message. And secondly, to become Prime Minister in Malaysia, you need to first be the leader of a political party or a coalition. And then your party or coalition needs to win the actual election, at which point the PM is chosen by the members of the parliament, usually made up of members of the winning party. Which begs the question, what if we, the Rakyat, could actually choose the Prime Minister, or any other minister for that matter? So for example, what if we, the Rakyat, could vote for person A to be the Prime Minister, and he's from this party, but we like person B to be the Minister of Education, and he's from a different party, and then we like person C to be the Home Minister, and he's a complete independent, which means instead of ministers being chosen from the pool of people who are members of the one winning party, we get to elect the person that we think could actually be best for the job. So, what about that? Harith Iskander, 60-second response. Hi, Harith Iskander, 60-second response. You've heard about the Bendera Putih movement, a wonderful initiative encouraging people who are desperate kepada mana-mana rumah yang terputus bakalan makanan and they need immediate help to reach out by waving a white flag. Tak perlu malu, tak perlu merayu. Now, in the wake of this fantastic initiative, the Ahli Parlimen of Bachok, Nik Ado, responded by saying, angkat tangan berdoa, bukan angkat bendera putih, suggesting that the power lies in prayer and not in a white flag. I have a suggestion. Combine the two. If you're hungry and you have no money and you haven't eaten for 3 days because the ongoing pandemic has destroyed your livelihood, how about you angkat bendera putih and then angkat tangan berdoa and hope that someone sees your bendera putih and brings you and your kids some rice and some vegetables and maybe a little milk because you have been feeding your 6-month-old baby syrup because you couldn't afford milk. That is a true story, by the way. Saya angkat tangan berdoa that you've enjoyed my 60-second response. Assalamualaikum. Good evening, Malaysia. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, what's going on, Malaysia? Apa khabar semua? My name is Harith Iskander. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream on Facebook and YouTube. I just want to say something. Guys, inilah 20 hari bulan Ogos. What a day. What a day. That is why I started just a couple of minutes earlier, because I can't wait to start talking about today. First of all, let you know that I am watching you. This is live. Good evening, Serena Yap. Thank you for saying good evening, everyone. I just would like to acknowledge a couple of people. There's one person yang selalu join awal-awal. Everybody joins very early, especially on YouTube. If you're watching this, good evening, Henry Sevenhang. Good evening, Brian Kwan. Good evening, Chin Chikeng. Good evening, Mahatma Murti from Seremban. Yes, terima kasih. Those of you who are watching, please let me know where you're watching from. Bagi tahu anda berada di mana sekarang, because I know that this live streaming is watched by bukan saja orang di Malaysia, tapi di seluruh dunia. We have had people watching from Australia, from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, from England, from New Zealand, from Adelaide, Australia. Yes, Zara Abdul, good evening, Harith. Guys, this is an incredible moment in our history in time. And I would just like to have a little bit of a disclaimer, because I have been watching the comments on Facebook. Ada seorang yang kata, ya Harith, kutuk lagi, why don't you just join politics, sebab awak memang berat sebelah. There was someone who commented this on Facebook. I just want to let you know, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, saya bukan berat sebelah. Kalau tengok badan saya berat daripada atas ke bawah, kiri dan kanan. I am berat all over. Tak pernah berat sebelah. And the reason is because dalam rancangan ini, in my program What's Going on Malaysia, the reason I do it is because I am genuinely interested. Saya memang ingin tahu jawapan kepada soalan what's going on Malaysia. Now, kalau kita tak tanya soalan, kita takkan dapat jawapan. Dan dengan siapa kita akan tanya soalan? Who will we ask the best questions to? I like to talk to and I like to speak to as many people as possible, as long as they are smart, intelligent, have an opinion, and are valid. Now, that does not mean I need to agree or disagree with that person. Dalam dunia ini, we are all allowed to have an opinion. In fact, I would encourage everyone to have a stand. You have to make a stand in something. But just because your stand or your opinion may be different from mine, that does not mean I will not talk to you, because I can learn as much from someone who does not have the same stand as me as from someone who does. In fact, kalau boleh dikatakan kita dapat belajar, we will get to learn more from somebody who is of a different opinion than ourselves. So kepada siapa-siapa itu, I didn't see the name, yang menganggap bahawa saya berat sebelah, well, you know, yeah, like I said, I am berat over. I am berat for Malaysia. Malaysia, he ain't heavy. He's my brother. That is a reference to mereka yang tahu lagu-lagu daripada 60-an. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. All the young people there below the age of 35 are going, what the hell song is that? You know what? Don't worry about it. Let's get on with the program. First of all, number one, before we begin, please, I appreciate you watching. I will even appreciate if you share this streaming. If you're watching on Facebook, please share it right now. Click share, click this, click share. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is in the bottom left-hand corner. Dekat sini, I think there's a bell. Please subscribe and you'll get to know when the show is coming on. This is an interactive show, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. We are going to be looking at your questions. Smart Investor is watching from Skudai, Johor. Terima kasih, Smart Investor. Sui Fei Yap is watching from Johor. Trisha daripada Sabah. Yes, Sabah is exactly right, because tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, ladies and gentlemen, tonight the guest on my show, and I do not want to hold him back any longer, is someone very special from Sabah, from East Malaysia, from the land below the wind. Not only that, but he has been central in the events, kejadian yang berlaku di Malaysia dalam senario politik kita dalam waktu 3-4 hari ini. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, dengan tidak membuang masa lagi, walaupun saya mungkin telah membuang masa dalam beberapa minit ini, I would like to bring into the studio my very special guest, the chief, the head honcho, the number one of Warisan, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Please welcome Datuk Sri Shafie Apdal. Assalamualaikum, Datuk Sri. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. I'm fine indeed, and thanks a lot, Haris, for inviting me this evening.
no, thank you for saying yes, for agreeing to be on my program. Memang begitu last minute. I think I approached you kalau bukan sehari dua lepas, and you very generously agreed to be on the program without knowing apa-apa yang akan terjadi pada hari ini, without knowing the events that were going to happen today. You already said yes, so I thank you very much, Datuk Sri, for being on my program. And how's your family? Everybody semua sihat walafiat?
Alhamdulillah. Awi is the one, my son, who is fixing all this. He's quite savvy with that. So everybody seems to be quite well, with the exception of some of my family in a certain part of Sabah. And because of the COVID, there is quite disturbing, increasing in number. And so is in Kedah, where Datin Sri comes from, Sungai Petani, and Jurong just had a flood there.
Yes.
So it is indeed quite disturbing. We were looking at the news, and we want to give a helping hand to the family down up north there, because it's not far away from Sungai Petani, and Lonjerai is there, Merbuk.
Okay. I saw the visuals. Okay. Yeah, but I saw the visuals there pada Kedah, and it is, it's selain daripada COVID that everybody's trying to handle, and now we have these floods, and I do pray and hope that everybody kat sana is okay, and if not, I hope help is getting out to you. So thank you very much again, Datuk Sri. I actually sebenarnya nak katakan, do I know where to begin? I don't actually know where to begin. But first of all, why don't we begin where we are today, 20 hari bulan Ogos, earlier today, just a few hours ago, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, if I'm not mistaken, has not officially announced that Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri is now Prime Minister yang ke-9, but I believe that the official announcement or the inauguration or what that process will happen besok pukul 2:30 petang. So you know what? Let's just jump straight into it. What has been going through your mind in the last 24 hours?
Well, actually, I might as well start from the very beginning, where we started.
Let's do that.
When we were summoned to the palace by the king. And then
what day was this exactly?
Party leaders. That was, I can't recall, it's about 3 days ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then we were there at the palace, and the king and President Nui was his deputy, Sultan Nazrin, Sultan of Perak, and did reminded us the need for us to sort of like do a process where, as a result of Tan Sri Mahdi's resignation, so the need for us to get somebody to replace him as the Prime Minister of the country. But the processes, of course, it was spelled out clearly by Tuanku. He said it is going to be done through submissions of statutory declaration, which is supposed to be done by the members of parliament. There's about 220 of us. So that statutory declarations have to be submitted at 4 o'clock, I think, if I'm mistaken, was it Wednesday? Right. And Thursday was the finals day. And after that, rulers' complaint was held today. And then I think somehow it is, I'm quite sure, I think they had viral and mentioning names like Ismail Sabri's D1, who had secured a number of 114. So I think I don't want to preempt which announcement have to be done by the king himself. I think basically it's already, there's a letter coming from Istana. So I think it is, I'm quite clear, I think it will spell out Ismail Sabri has been summoned to go to the palace. I think by tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, the swearing in will be done in the afternoon. So I think the processes was done because we have seen that. It started by the Sheraton move when the people's mandate was stolen and hijacked, sort of like from certain group of people. And then they formed it and they joined back together with those parties who got defeated in the last general elections. So I think as a result of that, it's quite a very unstable kind of system as a result of the move that was done way back 2 years ago. So I think as a result of that, then we are facing with all sort of environment like COVID. And this is one of the reason why we are in the sort of like mayhem kind of environment. It's a very chaotic. And
I think,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Sri, but you mentioned the word mayhem. Tapi
Yeah.
perkataan tu memang kalau I would say that that is quite I think that is an accurate description from a point of view of orang rakyat Malaysia at the moment. We are in let me be straightforward. Just I'm neutral rakyat ni. Bila kita dengar berita ni, when we heard the news this evening, on my social media and on all my feed, everybody said, "What? Nothing has changed. We are back to square one where we were 1 week ago." What do you think of that opinion, that perception?
I certainly agree with you. When you look at what is already spelled out and viral in the social media, it is a mere kind of change of curtain in a room, or if I may say, is a rearrangement of chair in a room. Basically, the same kind of personality is there, and you have that sort of character and still unchanged. So I think that was one of the reasons why when we met the king did indicate you must go beyond, your political ideology, your political party's interests are there, the need for us. But unfortunately, the system that has been done, that selections of a particular person to be prime minister, it has to be done through SD, and there's only one single person to be nominated, and there was no other chance for the rest. So I was one of the contender then, when from the opposition bloc, because we have a number of 104, 05. But after lengthy discussions, because I come from Pejuang, I come from Syed Sadiq's group and the rest of the group, and plus PH. So I thought that is indeed very important for me to also gather the momentum and the number together with them. We sat down for a couple of days, and then I discussed with my colleague the reason why I did spell out the base was 1045, like that. 105 was including Tun Razali then, and then after that we decided whoever get the number beyond that guy should be the person nominated representing that particular block. Otherwise, it will be meaningless. If I were able to secure additional kind of number, say about 27, and whereas the other block, PH block, which is about 88, and doesn't back me up, so I don't think it will be, a winner. So I decided we shouldn't divide the opposition bloc. So the need for us to be united to ensure that, we can have a win. So I did my level best when sort of like, okay, fair enough. If that is the so-called, I'm not so obsessed to become, but I thought that it is timely for us to provide that sort of leadership in the country, where people coming from the east, the so-called win from the east, on top of that, it's not just because I'm from Sabah and Sarawak, then we are eligible to become, but it is based on merits. I mean, I suppose I'm not saying that I'm better than the rest, but why not? After serving the country for more than 30 plus years, I thought it's high time as well, politicians coming from Sabah or Sarawak, for that matter, to become the leader of the country. I mean, you have seen Prime Minister coming from Kedah 2, Penang 1, now Pahang, almost 3 of them, and Johor 2. Why not from Sarawak? Why not from Sabah? I mean, we are here building a nation, Haris.
Okay.
I mean, there you are. We are separated by South China Sea. But if you go to Sabah, I believe your sibling is also from Sabah, and the livelihood of that sort of people mingle around. I mean, interactions is there. Is indeed, this is what supposed to be Malaysia is.
Okay, no.
I remember when I was then, sorry.
No, please carry on. Please carry on.
I remember I have been repeating this sort of experience that I had when I was in England. When I studied way back in 1970, I went to 1976, and I went to university and had lunch with my colleague, a British young student, and we had lunch. I took my fish and chips, he took his bacon, ham, and we were just seated side by side. But it doesn't mean that I have to chase him away, because that is his country. I mean, in Islam, in Quran, it's quite clearly spelled out. You don't have to eat; it's haram to eat. But if others by your side eating it, it is not haram. But you consider, use your eyes, you control your eyes, you don't have to look at it. I mean, in Sabah, you can have a drink by the side of your colleague. I mean, that is sort of thing where I think in inclusiveness, interactions, the need for us to build a nation. We are not separated just because of our race and our religious belief, and just because we are from the north, we are from the south, we are from so far away, is separated by subject history. I think it is indeed very important for us to not only integrate ourselves, but also working together, make sure that the people in this country will be a very developed and competitive nation.
Dato Sri, okay, tiba-tiba daripada politics kita dah masuk to culture and society. I just want to spend 1 minute that when you are speaking just now, I'm totally identifying, because the first time I went to East Malaysia was about 25, maybe 30 years ago. And to be honest, that was the first time in my life, saya dah grown up, dah besar, I was already in my mid-20s, that I felt, wow, this is what Malaysia should be like. Sebab kita tidak dianggap, Malay, Chinese, Indian. There was everybody. There was Bajau. There was people from Kuna. There was people from Penampang. And I felt that, wow, I am actually, I will tell you the honest truth, at 25, I suddenly felt, wow, this should be what Malaysia should be like. Because I'm from Peninsula, tak pernah rasa begitu. But you're actually correct. Okay, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to agree with you on that moment. Here, can I just ask you 2 questions? You were mentioning earlier that within the so-called opposition, you had to decide among. Are we talking about between
Myself
Dr. Sri Anwar and
no,
and
yeah.
yes.
There were only 2 contenders coming from that bloc, opposition bloc, because we have already somehow Tun Mahathir decided only for him to be there. So I was from the other side as well. So the need for us to closely work together to ensure that we can secure the votes. So yeah, but consider to ensure that we to say that I consider just because we don't want to be divided. That is indeed very important. Actually, the opposition bloc was not divided. I mean, you look into the incidents. From the very day when they took over the power from us, we were mandated the last PR14. And all of a sudden, we had 125 seats under us, a simple majority. But unfortunately, out of the certain move, all of a sudden, now we entangle with 114, 112. It's very unstable government. So I think it is indeed a lesson to us. I think once the people has been mandated, a particular group of people, allow them to govern. We must not be driven by the lust of power and greed to ensure that, we get what we want. No, it's not. It's building a nation here. So that's why it's indeed very important for us to ensure the nation interest and the people interest are, is the top priority.
Okay, can I ask a probing question, which is much easier to respond to in hindsight? Do you think the result would have been different, any different, if you had or the party had agreed that you would be the main focus and the name to put forward, as opposed to Dato Sri Anwar?
Well, it's a done deal anyways, Aris, but I suppose that, it could have been done because there are colleagues coming from Bersatu, there are colleagues coming from the former PKR, there are colleagues coming from UMNO too. They're quite close to me as well. And also some from Sarawak, and it could have been otherwise, But anyway, I mean, Haris, I think this is something that's really, I don't want to dwell with it. I don't want to be seen as if, I should have been the one. And forget, it's a very done deal. We must move
done
forward.
Deal.
How best the opposition can be united to ensure that we can unwind this in the future, whether it's coming election or whatever it is,
I agree. It is a done deal. No point. Apa orang putih kata crying over spilled milk.
Yeah.
Kalau susu tu dah tumpah, buat apa kita nak menangis? Yeah. But I'm going to spend 30 more seconds crying over this spilled milk lah, because you were yesterday. You actually were a little bit upset. I think based on what I read, that the GPS Gabungan Parti Sarawak did not commit to your coalition. Can you shine some light onto what happened there?
Well, sebenarnya Iskandar, I did try my level. They know me well. I've served the country. When I was the Minister of Rural Development, I spent most of the time helping Sarawak and long houses, building all those infrastructure. And it's not sort of like, I know them quite well. And so did communicate to quite a few of them. But of course, it is not easy when you don't have that sort of like initial kind of endorsement coming from that group. Had it been said like, you are the one who's going to be nominated, and that with that particular block of votes, I could have been in a better position to say that this is it, just add up a little bit. And I think on top of that, I think they're also saying that there are other things which I don't want to mention, that they're not comfortable working with certain group which is within our umbrella. So I think is indeed is an obstacle as well. But I think we can unwind this in the future for the betterment of the country. So I think we will do our level best in the future to ensure that how best we can engage, to strengthen, to sort of like rationalize to them the need for us to look beyond whatever it is, for the betterment of the country, getting Sarawak and Sabah. I did try. It's not the questions that I didn't try,
Okay. Let me just go back about 5 minutes when you were talking earlier bila berjumpa berhadap dengan Yang di-Pertuan Agong. There was mentions in articles in the papers yang Yang di-Pertuan Agong was talking about a unity government, talking about a bipartisan government. Was this ever brought up? And second part of my question, is it in the equation from now on? Do you expect any change? So perhaps you can answer. I don't know. I read in the paper. Did the Yang di-Pertuan Agong bring up this issue?
There was a reminder from the king to all of us that we must go beyond our political and party interests. There was a call for the country and people's life to be safe, and that was one of the call. I can't recall whether there was any kind of how best we can form a unity government as such, But yeah, I think that could be one of the solutions for the future. But I think it is extremely difficult to achieve that because it has to start with the honesty. When you intend to unite the people, you must unwind that interest of your own to ensure that people must be united, irrespective of race and religion, irrespective of your political interests. So I think, unfortunately, under the current regime, you have seen that how hijacking of YBs, jumping from one party to another, intermediations, and it's very difficult. If you ask people, said, will they sort of like confine themselves to sincerity? Will they do that? Will they not do that in the future? I think this is another one. It is indeed very difficult, Haris. So it was somehow the king did indicate the need for us to work closely together to ensure that the country, we can work closely together in a different kind of form. It doesn't have to be we should be in the government. I mean, like what I've done, for example, like under these kind of conditions, I support my district doctors in my hometown, in Sabah in particular. We are distributing a lot of food, helping hand to those people in needs, irrespective whether it doesn't come. Funding doesn't come from the government. There was only one occasions, and the Mayudin, they gave us 300,000 ringgit for each parliamentarian. But to cover vast area in Sabah, of course, it's not good enough. But before that, even previous years, we have been spending money our own to ensure that we can help. That in a way that we can help not only the government, the country, to enlighten that, because I remember then when there was a demo in Lahadatu where those people were locked down. And can you imagine they were locked down, not only locked down, but wire was used, caged them. It's just like animals. I mean, why was those people caged? I mean, it is merely just because there's no trust, there's no there's a double standard of policies given by the government. For those who can eat durian is okay. For those who can't eat durian, you'll be penalized. So how can you get Malaysians on board, sort of like helping you to execute policies? If there's no transparency, there's no consistency, the trust is indeed very important. Once you earn the trust through transparency, through good governance, and policies can be laid out, I'm quite sure people will be there on board to be united. So the questions of unity, the call for it can be done in a different kind of form. It doesn't have to be, or people have to be offered. Sort of like, oh, you'll be there as a minister, you'll be there as a DPM, you should be there as a, having sort of a portfolio. It can be done in other form too, to unite. We can work together to save human life. That is definitely, that's our responsibility and our objective too.
I echo you. Sebagai seorang rakyat, that is what the rakyat. Well, that is what I am focused on as part of the rakyat. Is to make that difference. Is to let's be honest. As far as the rakyat are concerned, and I will consider myself a rakyat, kita dah sampai almost to the tahap that, you know what, you can't trust politicians. Either side lah, kiri, kanan, atas, bawah. Let us focus on what are you doing for the rakyat. So every time we hear a politician like yourself say something like that, we also feel like, yeah, you're saying that, but why is it so difficult from a rakyat point of view that we are feeling it to a certain extent, and we do feel some kind of aid coming through. But I think after a year and a half of this pandemic, we are almost dah penat. We're very tired of the seeming politics.
Why is that penat, Iskandar? I mean, one of the very reason why, an example is that when you suspend parliament, we were not in a position to highlight opinions, suggestions to ensure that we should have the right prescriptions for the country, solutions, the way forward, policies. For example, like when parliament was open, we were only allowed to speak 5 minutes. And 5 minit ni nak cakap susah kan, Haris. These sort of things. But I mean, that's why I said it's indeed very important for us to enable to have good governance and collaborations open up. I mean, we expect criticism. When I was then a leader, a state government, I said, no, criticize me. There's no problem with me. If I did something wrong, I can rectify that. But I think what is important for us to ensure that, for example, like now, even now, we have been it is already in our mind way back. For example, like walk-in policies, enable those rural folks going to the center where they can they can get vaccination, doesn't have to fill up the form. For example, like the elderlies, they don't have the means to fill up the form. They don't have the means to communicate through MySejahtera, Haris. I mean, if you go to Sabah, if you go to places like Kota Merudu, you have to climb the coconut tree to get access. And that sort of things. We must be mindful. It doesn't mean that all policy will fit all in our country. You cannot just apply one particular policy, can apply to other state, other people too. So I think it is indeed very important, like when we mention how we can improvise those people to get vaccination. So one is walk-in, but walk-in, for example, like in Keningau recently, for example, like, I saw that there's only one center where they can get vaccination. It should have been centralized. I did suggest, I told KJ, I told the rest, I said over the phone, because you don't have any platform for us to highlight that, to ensure that, spread it out. That's why the rate in Sabah has been increasing from 1,000, and then up to now it's about 2,000 plus, because contact is there and the people have to wait. They took, the pain and the trouble to travel to that center at as early as 5 o'clock in the morning. Haris, they come from Tanam, they come from Tambunan, they come from very remote area, Pensiangan, and all of a sudden, the moment they arrive in Keningau, from 4, 5 o'clock like that, they line up. And there's only about 1,000, say like 1,000 vaccinations there. And there are about 3,000 people lining up. So the moment, they should have informed them, don't allow them to wait until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just limit, if it is within people's knowledge, that there's only 1,000 available vaccine to be done that particular day, then those 2,000 people doesn't have to wait until 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. And we have to micromanage this, because micromanaging, I know it's a very tedious job, micromanaging the people's way, how to do it, but to save human life, it is indeed how tedious it is, how difficult it is. We must take the pain to ensure the trouble that we can provide that sort of way and system, how to reach them out. You just imagine when elections come, every elections that we have gone through, you can get the voters to the remote jungle, search for them, even to the extent they give money, they provide transport, you can reach them. Here we are, saving human life. You ask them to come to the center, they have to travel miles and hours and hours. Why can we apply during elections? Why can't you do it when the moment when people's life to be saved? I mean, this is indeed appalling to see that what is happening in our country. We must devise a system. We can, enlighten them, not burden them, because we need to reach them out, spread out whatever we can do, services that we can render to the people by giving all the vaccinations. It's very unfortunate. Even I've been mentioning this many times, one of the best kind of solutions to in this particular era of COVID is that get as many as possible vaccines available in the country. You know, you can have double dose in KL, you can have double dose in Johor Bahru, but for God's sake, in a rural remote area like Gomusang, like in Pahang, in Sarawak, in Sabah, try and get a single dose, so the old folks doesn't have to travel so far away, you know, many times to get them vaccinated.
Tapi, yeah, no, what you're saying is, of course, not every state requires the same process, the same program. Every state is individual. Perlis lain daripada Sarawak, Sarawak lain daripada Sabah. You know, Sarawak is huge, Sabah is massive. You know, Perlis is small, and Kuala Lumpur is dense. So I agree with you in that sense. I just want to spend 2 minutes on this because I saw many comments and my producer has not brought them up. Not to say ramai, ada beberapa orang, and I kind of know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from your mouth. Ada beberapa orang dalam the people who are watching the program who have claimed, who have said, beliau or yourself is the reason that the elections happened in Sabah and the numbers went up. Now, I'm not going to answer for you. Can you just take 1 minute 45 seconds to give your side of the story, because I pun pernah dengar dia. But I want to hear it from you. Are you the reason?
Why was there a need for us to have elections in Sabah? The question is.
Yes,
we were there. We were there as a government. Why was there a need for us to have an election in Sabah? I was there governing the state with 2/3 majority, but there are some group of people, the PN government in particular, you know, hunger for power. They hijacked my people and took them, you know, all sort of means that they used, high-handed government, you know, using all sort of instrument, promise them all sort of things, you know, enticing them with all sort of means. And this is bad. And now they are trying to introduce hopping law. This is the particular group of people who did encourage hopping. Who I mean, blame us for, say, like, you know, how can we be blamed? I mean, there's been elections in America. I mean, can you blame Donald Trump for the elections? Because he lost his power. But what happened was the management part of it. What should have been done? Because before the elections, I look at it, consulted the health department. Sabah was all green. There was no red. There was no spike. Numbers were so small. I mean, you can imagine, we were the only state that sort of like apply a very stringent. Then vaccine was not available. When I was managing, I even stopped aircraft coming from Wuhan. You know, the consul general was a bit, not to say annoyed, he was a bit disturbed. He came to my office. I said, I have to tell you, Your Excellency, you can tell your central government in China, because it is indeed very important for me to ensure that how to control those people coming in, because I'm quite sure, I think I'm not controlling the people. It's not about managing the people itself as well, you know, but it's the diseases. It can be brought through all sorts of means. You know, now you have this Delta variant. So this Delta variant is indeed airborne. So it can be spread to, you know, not only, you know, your whatever it is, sneezing, airborne. So it's very dangerous now. So I think we controlled the aircraft to come in to Sabah, and we were doing well. But after that, there was an incident, for example, like in Sabah, after the general elections, I lost. What did the government, what step did they took? They allowed the people, after having heavy campaign in Sabah, went back to Semenanjung. Who did that? And all those guys, including the now Ismail Sabri, said, oh, no need to quarantine. They should have quarantined those people. They should have just said, allowed them, since you have been from Sabah, please quarantine yourself for a couple of days to ensure don't spread that sort of diseases. But we can't be blamed for that. I mean, you started it up. What was the root cause for that? I mean, here we are. I mean, COVID didn't start in Sabah. COVID started somewhere else, in another part of the world. I mean, don't tell me just because election is already far away. I mean, there's certain remote area in Shah Alam, in Perlis, has been there. I mean, Delta variant doesn't come from Sabah.
Yeah.
Don't blame us just because they said it is outgoing. I can't just simply hand over power. You know, you hijack it. That was a mandate given by the people. I mean, here you are. It's similar things that's happening now. the reason why we are this, I mentioned just now, mayhem kind of condition, is Raharis, because we were mandated by the people. The last general elections, they hijacked that, through Sheraton move, and now we are to be blamed. We are not to be blamed because we are not the one who is divided. I mean, you look at it in Parliament, for example, like who did the move? It was not us who pulled out from the government of PN. It was UMNO who pulled out, in spite of Tan Sri Mahyudin gave them the positions, become senior minister, become minister, given deputy prime minister, and now become prime minister. What happened to Bersatu? Bersatu was our member. We were in the government then. We lost our government. Now he lost his own premiership.
Okay. I get it 100%. I've been reading between the lines. I just wanted to hear from your mouth. So thank you kepada mereka yang buat komen tadi. I hope some of your questions are answered.
Habis nak blame kita. It's not our doing. Come on. I mean, that is not the issues. That's provided under the constitutions. When ada keadaan yang kita katakan, you don't have the majority, just do it. At that time, the rate was so small. Yeah, anyway.
It was very, very small. I had a friend daripada Sabah who actually was planning to go back for the to vote, and I think he actually traveled to Sabah. He's from Kunak, but he couldn't go to Kunak because it was a red, it was a zone for whatever reason. Tapi this young gentleman has actually sent in a question, and he's actually from Sabah, and I would like to play this question for you. Nama dia, he's a very interesting name. Nama dia, I call him Mat Sabah because he's actually from Sabah. He's actually also a stand-up comedian. So please bear that in mind when you hear his question. But it is a very valid question, and let's hear what Mat Sabah has got to say. Nama sebenar dia Ahmad. Hold on.
Hai, Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Ahmad. Saya orang Sabah, Kunak lebih tepatnya. Di sini saya mau bertanya kepada Datuk Seri Shafie Apdal. Kenapa orang Sabah selalu lapar? Lapar keadilan. Lepas tu saya mau tanya juga, orang cakap suara orang Sabah ni kalau menyanyi merdu-merdu sedap-sedap. Tapi kenapa suara orang Sabah jarang didengarkan di parlimen? Sekian daripada saya. Terima kasih. I love you, Haris Iskandar.
Okey, itulah satu saran daripada Mat Sabah.
Terima kasih banyak Mat Sabah. Pasal apa suara-suara kita tidak kedengaran? Ya, sebenarnya kalau kita melihat pembentukan Malaysia pada tahun 1963, ada perjanjian dia. Satu. Yang kedua, dia sehingga membolehkan kita bertemu, bermuafakat negara kita dimerdekakan pembentukan Malaysia. Dan di samping itu, selepas itu perbelahan perpecahan oleh kerana perebutan kuasa. Sabah sebuah tempat yang kaya dengan berbagai kekayaan, ya, sumber alam semula jadi. Tapi malangnya pasal apa tidak kedengaran? Pasal dia merupakan terkandung ahli politik yang tidak ada kepaduan dia. Terlampau banyak sangat parti-parti yang ada di situ, ya. Yang kita pun melihat bahawa inilah masalah di antara kita oleh kerana tidak ada kesepakatan. Jadi salah satu dia berdasarkan dengan parti, kita katakan bangsa, kaum, ya, yang ada, sehingga ianya menjadi permasalahan. Kalau kita melihat yang di negara-negara barat, di Amerika Syarikat, dia cuma 2 parti sistem saja. Di London, UK 2 parti sistem saja. Saya selalu sebutkan tentang ini. Jadi pilihannya agak terbatas. Tapi kita tidak boleh halang, ini kebebasan dalam perlembagaan negara kita yang boleh mendaftar parti. Jadi pasal apa tidak kedengaran? Kena kesatuannya, permuafakatannya, kepaduannya, tidak ada kebulatan dia. Walau sekecil mana pun, kalau kita berpadu, kita akan kedengaran dari suara yang kuat. Bayangkan hari ini kita hanya mempunyai ahli parlimen 9 orang saja. Dan 9 orang ni 8 orang, ya, seorang dah meninggal dunia, dan ditambah oleh rakan-rakan kita dari tempat-tempat lain, parti-parti lain. Dan banyak suara kita terkadang itu di parlimen pada hari ini, tawaran berbagai, sehingga kita pun ditawarkan berbagai jawatan, dan ini adalah satu langkah yang tidak begitu sihat. Perbelahan perpecahan rakyat Malaysia di peringkat Sabah ini harus dilihat ya untuk maju ke depan. Pasal apa negeri yang begitu kaya raya, tapi pembangunannya ya, sumber alam yang ada tapi jalannya tidak baik, bekalan air tidak baik. Kemana keuangan yang ada? Kemana harta yang ada? Pasal apa sebahagian besar daripada pimpinan-pimpinan ini tidak mengutamakan kepentingan rakyat, keperluan rakyat yang ada. Jadi saya berharap kelihatan ini untuk nak kita sebagai suara Sabah ini kedengaran, itu yang kita terpanggil. Saya amat bersyukur dengan Tun Mahathir bila dia menjadi Perdana Menteri. Ya. Yang kedua, di mana tidak pernah berlaku suara kita kedengaran sehingga kita mampu membawa rang undang-undang 63 di mana mengembalikan apa asas pembentukan Malaysia, harapan orang tua-tua dulu. You know, those guys inspire the nations to be built up, to be united, supaya kita share the cake yang ada. Jadi inilah perkara-perkara yang kita harus lihat. Jangan kita berbalak, jangan kita berpecah, ya, untuk menyatakan bahawa ini suara. Bukan tujuan kita untuk menekan mana-mana pihak, tidak. But the moment you have a united voice, I'm quite sure I think this will be the way forward to yang kita katakan menyelesaikan masalah-masalah. Banyak orang lapar. Pasal apa banyak orang lapar? Kita nak suarakan dalam perbentuk industri yang ada, walhal minyak kita punya, tapi kilang minyak pun proses tidak ada. Saya suarakan seumpama itu. Itu yang saya katakan. Kenapalah tidak dibuat kilang-kilang yang begitu besar untuk membolehkan buat pelabuhan di Kudat. Bila kita buat pelabuhan di Kudat dan proses minyak yang ada, seperti juga Singapura. Singapura mana ada minyak dia. Tapi hari ini mereka menjadi pembekal minyak untuk kapal-kapal yang banyak. Tapi bayangkan Sabah sebagai sebuah tempat yang berhampiran dengan pasaran yang besar. Ya, seperti China, seperti Jepun. Dan masalahnya itu yang kita katakan oleh kerana perbelahan kaum yang ada, perbelahan agama di peringkat awal, tapi insyaAllah kita akan usahakan bagaimana. Itu yang saya katakan. Sekarang ini kita mula go beyond race and religion. Ya, kita kena pastikan kalau kaum itu menjadi perjuangan kita semata-mata, takkan ke mana. Kita sayang kaum kita. Kita orang Islam, kita orang Melayu. Tapi dalam pada itu, kita melihat bahawa oleh kerana kita nak berkuasa, ya, kita lihat, maka itu menjadi perbelahan di antara pihak-pihak kita. Ya. Itu yang bila saya menjadi pemerintah, buat pertama kali, saya nakkan supaya semua perkongsian kuasa yang ada ketulusan dia. Ya. Bila saya lantik seorang pegawai kerajaan, bukan oleh dia kena seorang Cina, tapi bertanggungjawab untuk mengurus masalah tanah. I can still manage it. Ya. Tapi based on merit, dia di antara pegawai yang ada kebolehan, bukan oleh kerana bangsanya. Jadi kita kena lihat, inilah di antara pokok pangkal supaya kita dapat satukan suara daripada Sabah itu, kebulatan dia, tujuan dia untuk agar kita dapat realisasikan kehendak, keperluan rakyat, jangan sampai kelaparan yang ada. Tapi kalau kita berbala, maka itulah jadi masalah kepentingan jawatan, kepentingan pangkat, ya, itu jadi masalah. Sekarang ini kerajaan negeri menjadi pemerintah, dia bawa PN government. Tak pernah saya kacau pun, tak pernah saya beli pun YB dia, ya. Tapi silakan balik orang menilai bagaimana kepimpinan mereka, bagaimana pentadbiran mereka. Ya, sama ada kejayaan hari ini kita nampak, ya, bagaimana pentadbiran, pekerjaan, loss of jobs yang ada. Ya, bayangkan masa kita menjadi kerajaan, banyak pelabur datang, ya, untuk keinginan daripada China, saya membuat lawatan dan berbagai pihak. Dan ini yang kita harus lihat, Mat Sabah. Saya ingat panjang sangat saya nak jawab, tapi jawapan pendek dia, kalau suara bukan hanya vokalnya sedap didengar, kalau suaranya lantang mau kedengaran, kena ada kepaduan dia. Kepaduan dia jangan berlandaskan hawa nafsu kita. Nak jawatan, nak pangkat, nak jadi itu, nak jadi ini. Pasal itu saya temukan parti berbagai bangsa, bukan parti satu bangsa. Kerana kalau kita gunakan parti berbagai bangsa, ada penyatuan, inclusiveness is there. Kalau kita parti satu bangsa, kemungkinan ialah memang kita dalam hati saya perjuangan agama ada Islam, tapi kita sedar jangan hanya gunakan agama itu untuk meraih sokongan, jangan kita gunakan bangsa kita, KDM, Bajau, Suluk, macam-macam yang ada Cina, all sort of things untuk meraih sokongan yang ada. It must be inclusive dalam pada ini. I mean, kita bayangkan dalam terkadang itu manusia tak dapat melihat. Ada di antara peniaga-peniaga suku kaum Cina. Dia bagi pekerjaan kepada orang-orang Melayu, anak-anak Melayu, gaji 1,000, gaji 2,000. Duit yang mereka dapat belanja kepada anak-anak mereka, bela anak-anak mereka sehingga anak-anak itu boleh makan, anak-anak itu boleh ke sekolah. Yang bagi kerja dengan dia orang Cina. Tapi kita tak nampak. Tapi kita kadang-kadang, oh, why should we help the Chinese? Itu perasaan kita. Ya. Tak ada langkah untuk nak mengubah kedudukan Islam di negara ini. Kedudukan bumi putera orang Melayu dalam perlembagaan dah. Nak ubah perlembagaan ini perlukan 2/3 ahli parlimen. Di Kedah cuma satu saja ahli parlimen Cina di Alostar. The rest are all Malay area. Di Sabah 3-4 orang saja. Jadi kita kena faham, jangan kita guna bangsa, agama, kaum untuk kita nakkan supaya ianya menjadi satu perbelahan di antara kita. Ya, bila saya laungkan Sabah untuk Sabah tidak bererti kita tidak sayang orang Semenanjung. Saya sayang isteri saya orang Kedah, anak menantu saya daripada Wakap Cik Ye orang Kelantan, cucu 2 daripada Kelantan, 3 cucu saya daripada Sarawak orang Melanau Cina, dan juga menantu saya orang Kelang, menantu seorang orang Muar Johor. You know, I mean, itu yang kita nakkan. Kita membina sebuah negara. Bila kita luahkan itu, perasaan seumpama itu tidak bererti. Tapi pengertian dia ialah keutamaan. Apa yang ada pada hak Sabah termaktub dalam perlembagaan itu, suara itu kena kedengaran, kena direalisasikan. Kan ini merupakan usaha untuk nak mengikat supaya nation building, kesepakatan yang telah termaktub dalam perjanjian yang ketiga oleh pejuang-pejuang almarhum Tunku Rahman, Tun Razak, Tun Dr. Ismail, semua ini, Tun Mustafa Temanggung juga. Semuanya di antara pejuang-pejuang yang telah memeterai sehingga perlu Donald Stephen, banyak lagi pemimpin-pemimpin yang telah memastikan supaya ada permufakatan. Dan suara ini, bila ada kesepakatan dia, maka kita yakin suara kita kedengaran. Bayangkan dahulu, bila kita menjadi pemerintah yang ada kebulatannya, suara kita kental. But how do you unite people? Yeah. But that's why I said good governance must be there. Pemerintahan yang ada ketulusan, keikhlasan dia. Bayangkan, bila saya perintah di Negeri Sabah, saya terus haramkan ekspor kayu balak Negeri Sabah. Pasal apa saya ekspor kayu balak? Pasal ada yang curi kayu balak. Ya. Kalau kita ambil kayu balak, antar di luar negara, macam mana kilang perabot kita nak kita matangkan? Ya, kadang-kadang kita kena import kayu perabot daripada China, perabot daripada Itali. Perabot daripada China, kayu mana dia dapat? Mungkin daripada Sabah. Takkan kilang itu kita tak boleh buat. Ini cerita panjang sangat lah, Mat.
Ni kini Datuk Sri Shafie Apdal, you currently hold the record for the longest answer to a question on what's going on Malaysia, involving 13,436 words. Terima kasih. We will be presenting you the award. But thank you so much. Begitu, you speak with passion, you speak with conviction. Terima kasih, Mat Sabah. Saya rasa Mat Sabah pun terkejut dengan jawapan Datuk Seri Shafie Apdal yang begitu intensif dan progresif dan meluahkan. You covered all the areas. But thank you so much. I've got a personal question from a friend of mine. Nama dia Vinod Sanasi. Dia juga orang Sabah. Kenapa bila kita pergi Sabah masih lagi kena pakai IC ke pasport ke, you know, and I know there's a whole perlembangan behind it, tapi sampai bila macam tu? I mean, this is off the topic lah. We want to know.
Well, sebenarnya ini masa pembentukan Malaysia yang ada. Selepas itu ada masalah communist infiltration di negara kita, dan yang telah menyuarakan perkara ini sehingga dalam pemerintahan saya sempat berbincang dengan Tun Rahman Yaakob. Saya ingat saya ziarah dia kat rumah, kalau tak silap saya, Tun Rahman, the former Chief Minister of Sarawak. Dan saya tanya, apa sebabnya ada kegunaan pasport, ada kegunaan keterangan untuk rakyat Malaysia datang daripada Semenanjung ke dua tempat. Dan ini sebenarnya termaktub dalam perlembagaan kita, ya, masih lagi dalam perlembagaan di mana kuasa immigration itu masih di bidang kuasa kerajaan negeri kedua-dua, Sabah dan Sarawak. Dan di antaranya bukan hanya untuk memastikan pengawalan. Waktu itu di peringkat awal ialah komunisme. ya, dan Allahyarham Tun Razak yang mencadangkan kepada beliau Tun Rahman Yaakob dan pimpinan-pimpinan lain di Sabah juga untuk memastikan jangan ada datang daripada Semenanjung waktu itu, banyak ada infiltration 1960s waktu itu, komunis datang daripada China untuk nak masuk ke negara kita. Itu yang konfrontasi berlaku beberapa tempuran. Jadi di antara kaedah untuk digunakan itu untuk mengawal keadaan yang berlaku. Dan di samping itu saya ingat ada kebaikan dia juga, bukan tidak ada kebaikan dia. We have to manage it properly. Terkadang itu berbagai cara. Itu yang ada yang melalui contoh laluan tikus, banyak orang yang berada di negara kita tidak tahu, ya. Saya juga tertuduh contohnya di mana kita membiak PTI. Bukan, kita ini bidang kuasa kerajaan pusat immigration, tapi bila bab peringkat Sabah kita boleh mengawal, tapi issuance of IC passport is done by KL, is done by kuasa persekutuan yang ada. Jadi ini di antara perkara yang telah persoalan ditimbulkan tadi sebenarnya daripada awal termaktub dalam perjanjian 63 dan juga ini cadangan yang dikemukakan oleh Allahyarham Tun Razak dan Tun Rahman Yaakob sendiri cerita dengan saya tentang perkara
Tapi
ini.
sekarang dah 2021 macam tu lagi. I mean,
tak, dia kalau di peringkat negeri Sabah kita dah tak perlu pasport, dia perlukan resit saja untuk memastikan, pasal kita kena mengawal kedatangan. Ini penting untuk memastikan we must make. Saya faham. Okay. Sedang Abu Sayyaf pun tak boleh kawal, ini kan nak kawal rakyat Malaysia, but we must make sure that it is indeed, that is one of the issue yang kita kena lihat, yang perlu mengawal dengan begitu rapi, ya, keadaan kedatangan masyarakat. But sekarang di Sabah, cuma di Sarawak masih menggunakan pasport saya ingat. Kalau di Sabah dia tak perlu pasport, ya, IC dia gunakan receipt saja, ya. IC diterangkan dia ni. Ya.
Okey, kita teruskan. Nanti orang kata saya pilih orang daripada Sabah hanya yang boleh tanya soalan. We have another question here from a gentleman, I think his name is Robert.
Hi, good afternoon, Harith and Dato Sri Shafie. Yeah, it's pertaining to the 7 reforms that was proposed by Muhyiddin as Prime Minister before he stepped down. You know, I thought some of the proposed reforms, especially the anti-hopping law, was something that everybody, you know, rakyat and all political parties were looking forward to that, so that we can have a stable government, you know. But the Pakatan Harapan outright reject this without even sitting down. I think it's pretty arrogant and dismissive, because they are saying that what is good for Malaysia and the rakyat, they would, you know, sit down and consider. But to throw this out without, you know, getting it through and to be discussed, I think it's very arrogant. And I don't think we would ever have another chance again on passing this anti-hopping law. Even in the 22 months, Pakatan Harapan as the government could not get this law being passed. So yeah, I think we missed a golden opportunity. What do you think, Dato Sri, Shafie and Harith? Thanks.
Okay.
Well, Robert, actually, we have mooted this proposal way back, many years ago. I mean, if you look into the incidents of people hopping from one party to another, it was quite rampant in Sabah compared to many other states in Semenanjung. You know, change of government was very frequent, partly attributed because of those hopping kind of activities done in that particular area. So I think, but unfortunately, the 7 kind of reform, I don't know whether it was consulted. I mean, consultation was done from the other party. I mean, I was not even consulted. I mean, others was not even. I mean, you should be very inclusive into once a reform, for example, like need to be done. You know, even when you spell it out to the public at large, as if blaming us not for accepting it. How do we know the content? For example, like when you touch about the 18 years old, I was there in Parliament, voted for that 18 years old. We already approved that with 2/3 majority, approved. But it was suspended by the government of the day. Now, PN government. And now you're proposing, put it back. You know, I mean, that sort of things, the move. The trust is not there. I mean, if you want to propose something, you know, this is towards the end of your terms, and then all of a sudden you try to entice people to join your group just because you want to please them. But I think you must. That's why I said you must be, you know, you must earn the trust. Is important for the government. I mean, there's been a lot of call. The government has failed. Kerajaan ini gagal. Banyak orang mati, banyak orang menganggur. So many people are dying, and so many people unemployed. I mean, this is it. Why? How can we unwind this? The only way to unwind this, a stable government. To have a stable government, you have to change the regime. You know, and this is it. I mean, it's quite extremely big. Of course, we can't have elections to be held, but the problem is that part of the problem is that proper consultation on certain kind of proposal. If any government to be done, it should be discussed thoroughly. We must be inclusive, and then we can table it in Parliament. But Parliament was also suspended. I mean, the last day when the Parliament was open, we were not even allowed to enter Parliament. Can you imagine? I mean, parliamentarian. I have my office in Parliament. We can't even walk in, while the clerks and the staff can go to Parliament, while MPs can't go to Parliament. I mean, you look at how we govern the country, and here you are on the other side. Okay, let's work together, closely together to ensure that these are the proposal. It was rejected. Well, it must be, Robert. I mean, when you do something in life, for example, like you want to buy a vehicle, invest on certain kind of listed company, you have to go into all the detailed part of it, analyze it properly. This is a proposal that we have. We have to have a joint venture, 50%, 40%. How is it going to be shared? Well, if I'm the one who's going to have 50% and yours is about 20, 30%, now who's going to manage it? The CEO is going to come from where? And you have the smaller shares stake, and you are the one who's going to manage it. The detailed part that have to be done. I think that's why we have to really thrash it out. I mean, I was just listening to some of the proposals, but yet to be dealt with. We have to be thorough, discuss it thoroughly. But unfortunately, it was a sudden kind of way to offer to us. And I don't know, Pakatan Harapan, whether, because I'm not under Pakatan Harapan, he's only a colleague of ours, he's an opposition bloc. But I don't know whether they were called to discuss this issue. But I was not invited to discuss some of the proposal. End of the day, and this is it. You accept it or not? I mean, How can we just say it responded overnight, looking at some of the deals that is there on the pipeline, and we have to look into it whether it's supportable or not, because the government. I mean, you talk about 100 and another additional 110 billion. That sort of proposal. Do we have the money? Where do we get the money? I mean, it sounds so interesting. It sounds so good. We have already allocated almost more than to the magnitude of 500 billion ringgit. I mean, out of the 500 billion ringgit, we only spend fractions of that 500 billion, about almost 10 billion on COVID. And this is the most important, problem that the current country is facing. Why a big portions of that money goes to don't know where, And that's why I think before even take up some kind of suggestion and proposal, we have to be very thorough and we have to be very inclusive, discuss thoroughly, debate in Parliament, whatever it is. Here we are. We can't question even the money that has been spent. We can't even look into what the proposals are. I mean, it must be done thoroughly. We cannot just simply, just because these are proposals for the good of the country, sound very attractive, but we have to, analyze it carefully. If it is for the good, why not? In the future, we can. I mean, it doesn't mean that, for example, like anti-hopping law, that is the end of the road. If the current government is, they're still there. I mean, all the ministers are still there. Now, if they have the ways, the means to do it now. Don't just, entice others with all the sort of lip service saying that follow us, join us, anti-hopping law is there, and yet you practice that. Ini yang saya cakap, Haris, keikhlasan, cakap tapi buat lain, itu yang terkadang, this is what is happening, let's be honest, let's be truthful. That's why even though when the last, for example, when I said I conceded to Anwar Ibrahim, people were doubtful whether I support him. I said, no, you saw my SD, I supported you, don't question it, sincerity is there. Mungkin manusia tak nampak, Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala nampak. God knows what is inside our heart, what we have done. People might not see that.
Actually, well said. Memang ramai yang tanya, kenapa tiba-tiba Dato' Sri Shafie is backing up Dato' Sri Anwar. But like you said, if if your sincerity is there, then who else is valid enough to question it? I know I've taken up a lot of time. I want to, at the end of the day, I want to move forward. The name of the show is What's Going on Malaysia. Can I just hear from your words? Like, if you can give some hope to those watching, to those watching this streaming, what potentially can happen and should happen such that I don't want to say we get back on track, but we get back on track. What needs to happen? Regardless of politics, what needs to happen?
Well, the way forward for the country, Harris, I think we have to resolve the important problem that we're facing now. And of course, everybody knows about it, which is COVID. Okay. And the
Tapi
next one, and
dalam setahun setengah
concurrently,
ni it has been solved. How can we solve it now?
well, that's why I think we have to have a thoughtful kind of prescription to it, a very comprehensive, and we have to get some expert coming in on board. It cannot be handled by the cabinet. It cannot be handled by just a cluster group of people. I mean, Tun Mahathir have suggested that sort of a committee, which, it's proven like what we have done before when we have financial crisis, M10. A selective group doesn't come from politicians, doesn't come from ministers. They provide some kind of solution on how best, for example, like, how do we get the right vaccination? Is it single dose, double dose? Which particular vaccine is good? Is it Pfizer? Is it Sinovac? That sort of things that we have to. And this might be what is the volume like that is needed in the country? It is about 32 million people. Out of the 30 million people, how many need to be vaccinated with dose? So at least then the volume of those that needed. But I think the implementation part of it is very crucial. I think the application, beside vaccination, you have to apply the MCO, and these are the sort of thing. I can't spell it out in a short period of time. And concurrently, we also need to resolve the economic problem that we currently face. I mean, you can imagine people unemployment there. It's been staggering in numbers. They don't have money, neither do they have food. And some of them previously own cars, own vehicle, own houses. And now, because the bank call, margin call, all sort of things, and they don't have any shelter. And how do we resolve that? It's not an easy problem to be resolved. When I look at it, it was indeed a serious kind of a very serious obstacle that need to be resolved. But as a politician, as a leader, we have to have a political will. So I think what is important, I can't spell it out clearly in a short period of time on how to do it. But I think we have to segregate that, compartmentalize. For example, like when you have a problem with COVID, there must be a special group, and we have to evaluate what is the outcome out of this policy. If it doesn't work, and then we have to rearrange that, because this coronavirus, this disease, it can multiply. It was easily earlier, it was just a normal kind of COVID. Now Delta is coming. God knows what next, because they can multiply, they can reproduce in different kind of disease, which doesn't suit that sort of vaccine that we have already produced. We have to be up to the mark, or every now and then, to ensure that we are ahead of it. And on the economic problem, I mean, look at it. I think it's so sad to see this. These are some of the issues. If you ask me, the way forward for us, we need to resolve, not only in terms of recovery rate, but to do that, we have to be inclusive. Get all the businesses, from all sectors, whether it's agriculture, whether it's industrial sector. For example, like I indicated just now, why are we so punitive in terms of, for example, there's a spike in Selangor, and you close down the factories in Perlis. There's a spike in Selangor, you close down the factories in Sabah, when there's not even a single kind of positive incidents there. We're not chasing factories here, Haris. We're not chasing people here. We are trying to avoid the disease to be spread out. So how do you do that? And this is very important to identify, that do a lot of testing. You don't worry about the number of people tested also positive to the magnitude of 50,000 a day. You have to reach to the level, the maximum. Once you reach the level of maximum, 30 million people say has been tested, and how many of the 30 million positive and negative, it will definitely doesn't go up. It will definitely go down. But of course, if you have tested those people, you have to vaccinate them. But the system that we apply, we found people positive, quarantine them for 14 days. And those people found negative, go back. You know, you should apply the system. When you found them negative, after all the testing, vaccinate them. Don't ask them to come back again. You know, that sort of system where you can add up the number, expedite the number of populations to be vaccinated in this country. Here, where, for example, like in Sabah, the lowest of all, I think it's less than 20% people vaccinated, second dose. Why is that so? Because there's not enough vaccine. And the system that we have is indeed appalling. But is there anybody looking into why the system doesn't function? Why the policy that we have devised, packages after packages, it doesn't bring up the outcome? You know, that's why when emergency was brought up, we knew that that is not the right solution, because no other country in the world have applied that. Across the country, you have, of course, in Japan, they have only the certain area, you know, emergency certain area, but lockdown certain area. But you don't declare emergency the whole country. That will deter investors coming in. They will have lack of confidence, I think. But I think it is important for us to discuss thoroughly with some of the industrial business players in this country if we were to address the issue of economy. We are blessed. I mean, our reserve is there, Haris. We have more than 100 billion US dollar. We have money. It's not the question. But the question is that where the money going to? I mean, 500 billion. You're talking about reserve is about 100 billion, 300, you multiply by 3 is US dollar, is about 300 billion. But question is, where are the 500 billion? That includes moratorium, that includes all sort of bank, EPF facilities that have been granted. But there are a few hundred billion money spent. But is there anybody looking into what was the outcome? You know, we cannot be spending money when there's no cost effectiveness. It must be cost effective.
It must be cost effective. To the normal rakyat, bila kita cakap pasal billion, 500 billion, 300 billion, we can't even imagine that. But I agree with you, specifically about Sabah. I must admit, I don't know. The figures you gave me were a bit of a surprise to me, but I can imagine with the vastness of the land and the ruralness of the people across, I'm quite surprised. Did you say it's only 20 or 30% have been vaccinated? I certainly hope on behalf of myself that you know that something can be done extra for the people of Sabah and Sarawak as well. That is my sincere wish. Dato' Sri Shafie Apdal, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. If I may ask one thing for you, and I don't know whether this is possible, is there a message of hope that can be left? Like, what is working, what is good, and you hope that we carry on this good work, regardless of politics. What is good about tomorrow, next week, and the future in Malaysia? Is there a message of hope you can leave us with?
Well, I think as has been spelled out by the King and the rest, the need for us to ensure that effort must be done by the government of the day effectively to ensure that we can save human life.
Yeah.
And also putting back Malaysia's in the right footing, be a competitive nation. I think it can be done. But the government of the day is about leadership here. The questions of good governance, the questions of how best we can provide the right kind of solutions and prescription to ensure that the country can move forward. And this, I think, if we have that, you know, and there's a new leadership now, and see how can it devise a solution, you know. But of course, open up Parliament to ensure that we can air our views. It doesn't have to be we are the government of the day, but I think what is important, I think, you know, the government must provide that sort of effort. Susah nak cakap in a short period of time, because I think Malaysia is a beautiful country. You know, we are so blessed with so many resources, but we how best we can monetize that. I think it is not the end of the road. I believe that we can move forward if we have the right kind of leadership in this country, and if the people are working together closely to ensure that less sangat politicking, and that is very important for us. I mean, Haris, you look at it. I mean, it's not because of us here. We are politicians. Yang pecah ni bukan pembangkang sangat. Yang pecah dia ada sign. The government of the day, they are quarreling. It's not us. They hijack our government, and that's where unstable. We have to have a stable government. So I think what is important, it's indeed very important to ensure that the country must have the right kind of solution. Learn from, move forward, learn from the mistake of others, and improvise your own mistake. Yang ada, how Singapore managed COVID, how Vietnam managed the economy, how Indonesia is moving. Look at Indonesia now. I mean, they are now looking into producing their own vaccine too. And they have reached to the level. In Malaysia, we're talking about even we don't have enough vaccine. We can't get it. So I think untuk menghadapi negara kita, tidak ada berarti bahawa kita tidak ada keupayaan, kemampuan. Ya. Tapi yang penting kepada kita, the way forward, bila dah sampai ketika pilihan raya mungkin tak dekat, tapi tak jauh, mungkin another 2 tahun, ensure rakyat pilihlah kerajaan, pilihlah pimpinan yang ada keupayaan, pimpinan yang mempunyai niat yang baik untuk membolehkan negara kita terlepas daripada belenggu yang ada pada hari ini, bukan hanya ketirisan keuangan, pelan-perajaan yang berpilihan dan berbagai-bagai, dan kesudahan tidak kelihatan, tidak terasa. Ya. Jadi saya nak cakap bahasa Melayu supaya everybody knows that as well. Haris, mungkin your audience is also from Sabah and other places.
Yes.
Mungkin for them to understand that. So I think ini yang saya nak lihat supaya saya tahu ini di antara kesilapan, kesalahan ahli-ahli politik yang ada. Tapi daripada itu kita juga rakyat kena melihat di masa yang mendatang. Ya. We must play the role. Ya. The problem is not with the people. Masalah ini masalah kerajaan, bukan masalah rakyat. Ya, yang kita kena lihat, there are times when people now crying loudly sampai bendera sana bendera sini, tapi masalah ialah bagaimana kerajaan yang memimpin. Pasal itulah kepimpinan harus menyediakan kepimpinan yang begitu baik supaya rakyat itu terlindung daripada berbagai perkara. So choose the right leadership, choose the right people to ensure that we can govern the country. I think this is very important, Haris. Masa depan kita way forward for us. Jangan nanti besok end of the day pasal kita pilih pemimpin-pemimpin yang nilai, values dan kepimpinan itu kena ada good values, dan dalam kehidupan itu. Dan kalau ada clarity in our values, so don't have to be worried about what obstacle, apa cabaran yang kita akan hadapi di masa akan datang.
And with that, Dato' Sri Shafie Apdal, terima kasih banyak-banyak. Thank you so much. I will echo your hopes, kepimpinan yang mampu, yang berupaya, that do the best for the people. Thank you sekali lagi. Terima kasih. Thank you so much for spending this hour plus with us. I appreciate that so much. And I do wish you all the best, and along with you all the best, and all the best for Sabah as well. So terima kasih, Dato' Sri Shafie Apdal.
Terima kasih banyak. Thanks a lot for Iskandar. In the moment that you allowed me to be with your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night to you, sir. Terima kasih.
Good night. Selamat malam.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. As the last message left by Dato' Sri Shafie Apdal, that his hope or his wish is that ini bukan pasal rakyat, ini bukan salah rakyat. It is up to the leaders to lead, and to the leadership to act in the best interest of the rakyat. Now, I'm not here to make judgment upon what has happened politically. At the end of the day, you, the rakyat, and me, kita sama. In these last 2 or 3 days, you and me, had no say in the change of government. Betul tak? We sat at home, we watched all the kereta-kereta pergi ke istana. We have heard from Dato' Sri about what happened in the istana. We heard about the SDs and the letters and all. Tapi at the end of the day, let's be honest, you and me, kita duduk, tengok our device, tengok our laptop, tengok our phone. We had no say in it. Our only prayer, our only wish is that whoever came out on top, whoever is chosen, does the best for the rakyat, for the country. And with that, belum confirm lagi, but it will probably be confirmed tomorrow. I do hope and I do wish that Dr. Ismail Sabri Yaakob the very best. From a rakyat, I have my trust and my belief, bukan dari segi politics, I have my trust and belief that he and whichever cabinet he chooses will learn from past mistakes. Maksudnya, a bit like what Dr. Shafie Apdal said today, we have to now start the engine again, tengok apa yang worked, what worked before, and what didn't work. And I hope and I pray on behalf of all the rakyat that they recognize this is what worked, this is what didn't work. Let us do less of what didn't work and let us do more of what worked, such that we can bring Malaysia out of the pain and we can begin to heal again as a people. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why my show is called What's Going on Malaysia. I ask this question and I invite various people to come on the show because I want to hear from them. I want to hear what they have got to say. I want to hear what answers they might have. Now, tonight, have we found the answer to what's going on in Malaysia? Maybe not the whole answer, but I believe we are one step closer to answering that very important question. To those of you who have been watching, terima kasih, thank you very much. One last call, please share this Facebook or this YouTube live streaming and also subscribe right here with the bell. Make sure you press the bell if you're watching on YouTube and also share this Facebook post. To those of you who've left a comment, thank you so much. You know, I've got some from Dome. Sorry. I've got some Dome vouchers to be given away, and I will be giving it out to all the people who have left some incredible comments and some incredible reviews of the show. I really, this is a day in history. Let's just say August 20th is a day in history. The announcement of our Prime Minister, PM ke-9 esok, Dr. Ismail Sabri Yaakob, and a big congratulations to him and to Tan Sri Muhyiddin as well. No matter what you may personally think about him or the cabinet that he has been ruling for the country for the last year and a half, I will have to say it's probably not the easiest job in the world. You have done what you could, and there's no way I could possibly know what goes on behind the doors of Parliament, behind the doors of Cabinet, that I could make a learned guess as to what was going on in the lives of all those people that were in our previous Cabinet and our previous government. So I do wish all of them the best. And to those of you who may be chosen to come in and take over or pick up where you've left off, my only wish is please, 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 please consider what's good for the rakyat first and foremost. And with that, Tuan-tuan and puan-puan, thank you for watching. Monday. Monday is the what? 20, 21, 22, 23rd of August. Monday night. Dr. Sri Nazir Razak will be talking about a better Malaysia. If you've been following him on Instagram and Facebook, he has proposed an essay, his thoughts on what makes a better Malaysia, and I will be talking to him about that. So please join me on Monday night. Who knows? I may have a guest tomorrow or Sunday. That's how fast things change in Malaysia. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rina O, for watching. Thank you, Harith, for a good show. What's going on in Malaysia? Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Tai Chi Soon. Thank you, Nancy Teo. Thank you, Francine Raja. Thank you, Shasha Jetli. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Please, if you've not, I can't imagine you're not following and liking my Facebook page by now. If you're not, do it. Do it now. I'll see you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Good night. And we look forward to answering the question, what's going on, Malaysia? Good night.